everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Flutter Tips. I am Ademir, a Flutter developer at Somnio Software, and today we are diving into some of the exciting updates included in Flutter 3.32. Let's take a look at what's new in this release. If you have done any Flutter web development, you know the workflow hasn't always been the smoothest. That's why this new experimental hot reload for web feature in the latest Flutter version is such a welcome improvement. Let me show you how it works in practice. Here, I've got the counter app project open in VS Code. To enable the experimental web hot reload, all you need to do is run your app with the web experimental hot reload flag enabled, as you can see right here. Now, see how I am able to update the counter value as usual, but then let's try to change some of the properties that we have in the main.tar. For example, this text. I remove that bar, and as soon as I hit save, the app gets updated. If I undo the change and hit save, we are back to the beginning. Let's try to maybe change some colors, for example, the app bar background color. If I hit save, you can see how it immediately reflects the change. That was a quick look at the experimental hot reload feature for Flutter Web. That is going to be a huge time saver for developers. Moving on, another handy addition in Flutter 3.32 is the new property editor, which makes tweaking your widgets and reading documentation much easier. Here you can see how we can access the property editor in the VS Code sidebar panel. If you use Android Studio or IntelliJ IDEA, don't worry. This property editor is also available there as a tool window. Now that we have the property editor open, we can see how as soon as I focus on one of the widgets in the main.tar, I get two different sections. First, the documentation section, and then the other section is all the properties that I am able to change. This works not only for this column that I just focused, but also for center widget, app bar, or even scaffold. For now, let's go with the column and let's try to change this alignment, for example. Let's move it to start, and you can see how as soon as I change the value in the property editor, the alignment was also changed in the code side. If I hit save, we get the updated version of the app. Let's put it back to what it was, center, and we are back at the beginning again. Now that we've covered some practical tooling improvements, let's shift gears to a new design feature in Flutter 3.32, the support for Squircles. On this slide, we have two widgets, one being a squircle and the other being a regular rounded rectangle. At first glance, they look almost identical. However, when we stack them, the difference becomes clearer. Here, the blue squircle widget is on top of the one using a rounded rectangle. And if we zoom in on the corner, you can see that the red rounded rectangle slightly peeks through. Here's a quick look at how that layout is built. Just a simple stack with the two clip containers on top of each other. But wait, what exactly are the squircles in this code? Well, you will get squircles automatically when using certain Cupertino widgets, like Cupertino Alert Dialog, Cupertino Action Sheet, or, in this case, Clip Superrelease. There are some other widgets that also implement a squircle internally. Also, something to keep in mind, this feature is platform aware. On iOS and Android, you will get the squircle shape, but on unsupported platforms like web, it will fall back to a regular rounded rectangle. All right, moving away from the UI for a moment, let's talk about a nice little update on the Dart side of things. You have probably written an if statement or a null check just to decide whether to add something to a list or not. Well, now Dart makes that easier with null-aware collection elements. Here's a simple example to show what this new syntax looks like. Previously, if you wanted to conditionally add a widget to a collection, like children in a column, you had to write an if statement and unwrap the value manually, as we can see in the first call to widget child on the example. However, with the new syntax, you only need a question mark before the value you want to conditionally add. And that's it. We can see that in the second call to widget.child. You just need to add the question mark before the widget. And that wraps up some of the key updates in Flutter 3.32, from experimental web hot reload to the new property editor, Squircles, and null-aware collection elements. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of Flutter Tips.